electronics? They are here. Okay. Go right down.
I don't have my recorder.
He's actually going to have you over here across the hall, so I'll grab a couple more chairs for you.
I did bump my head on a corner shelf.
Thing there.
Hurt like heck.
All right. Yeah, they gave me muscle elastins and war pads and stuff, and they wouldn't give me any X-rays or nothing.
I'll stand over here.
Just bring them over.
Yeah, just bring more chairs.
I don't have a recorder on me, so.
Well.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
The only thing good about coming here, usually,
What's that?
seeing the red, it's right on the shirt.
Oh, could you hand me one of those free damaged?
You know,
Give me a few of those, would ya?
Georgia guide stones. You ever heard of that? Georgia guide stones?
Hey, can you give me a couple of them?
Guide stones.
Yeah. No, this sick lady that had all these things that, you know, the lies or whatever about fluoride and heart and, you know, HIV and genetically modified organisms. One of those things that they were bringing up.
Okay.
Guide
Hi.
stones.
Hi.
I did.
Which I haven't quite figured out what the deal is there.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good to see you.
I'm Greg.
Greg.
How you doing?
Good.
Here's my card.
Nice to meet you.
I'm not,
That's all right. Good to see you.
I'm not registered with you guys here at the current moment.
Okay.
I was talking to somebody else here earlier at the beginning, when it was all Jumpstart program. There was a lot of work involved that didn't require Jumpstart money, and of course Jumpstart seems to be having a lot of problems getting the first checks out in time and getting the second checks after they got cleared. That first year they had big trouble, and so I kind of took my stuff off the list. I had a lot of Doug Jones work. But I was talking to somebody here earlier today, said I should talk to Laura about some of the people in the rental program who apparently are looking for contractors.
Okay.
Obviously, like from what Lonnie went through, there's a bunch of them we got that don't apparently do all their work or do all their work right. And I know he's not the only one, because they already replaced Craig Sharp's tub over on 5th Street about 3 months ago after he sued that contractor.
A Avenue.
Yeah, Hay Avenue. Oh, yeah, on 5th Street. Hay Avenue, 5th Street.
Okay.
And stuff. And so I'm pretty used to what you guys got going on around here.
Okay.
I looked at his house. I was there with Mr. Sedlicek and Al Tenzagraw that day as we went through and looked at, what was, essentially was in code and what was not code.
Okay.
And of course, obviously, just because stuff is brought to code doesn't necessarily always mean that the job was done right. Kind of like in Craig Sharp's case, that guy ran water lines right up through his hallway where you could see them. And if I go do a roof on a guy's house, I'm not allowed to use 5 different color shingles on it. I mean, that'll pass code, but that's not a good job. And from what I've seen so far out of Lonnie's house, I'd say the guy, I don't know, he did some of the lead abatement issues that he needed to deal with some of the windows, siding the garage, but he's got things listed. I mean, there's 6 joists on there that need replaced. Not one of them's done. None of the carpet's in the basement. None of the basement's been masonry sealed. None of it's been sealed for mold. The stairs going from the basement upstairs, there's a 2-inch difference in rise.
Okay. So should I be taking notes on this, or do you have?
I kind of have. Well, I kind of have some notes, and like I say, I don't have a. Yeah, I was going to say he's got notes there, and I don't have an estimate drawn up yet, and that was mainly because I don't know where you guys are at in this process. But he gave me the other guy's work, and a lot of this is, where I started going through. And then, of course, I went over there the one day and started writing down, what I saw.
Okay.
And then I went through and, of course, compared his notes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew pretty much as I started going through a lot of this stuff that, room after room in here, none of these things are primered and painted, none of the floors have wood on them. I mean, there's just, this guy's got a, what did he have on this one? A $26,150 estimate for stuff that,
Never did it.
yeah, oh my gosh, if you, I'm amazed. And then, of course, I got more on here. Of course, this basement, I mean, this is none of this. This is was this a $16,000? No, this is a $3,000 part of it for the tuck pointing, the ceiling. I have not done any of that. I think there were four steel supports.
That's it. And didn't do concrete pads either.
Yeah, there's not concrete pads underneath those steel supports.
I know there wasn't before.
We got a brand new furnace in there. Same old ductwork, not clean. You know, AmeriClean does that pretty cheap for $300. So why, you know, they skipped that part? I have no idea. He's got charges for 333 foot of square feet of carpet in the basement. There's absolutely none on the steps. None of the floor joists here are redone. I mean, this whole sheet, other than the fact that he had somebody put the furnace in, hasn't done any of it. And it's not that. I mean, not only not done any of it, hadn't touched it, hadn't started it. The rooms that they've got on here, primer, painting, and all that, they patched a couple drywall spots, mudded them, and stopped. Yeah.
Our goal is to get the house done.
Right. Right.
Okay. While I am interested in
The problems.
I'm more interested, as I'm sure you folks are, in getting to the solution, right? And having an interest in the problems is good, but it's not going to get us the solution.
How much money has he been paid?
So here's what we need to do is, I believe it's 50%. Which you signed
You
up
get the first half
so,
checks.
Which totals, what on that?
Well, he got a couple, and then he requested some additional, the 2 windows, I think, subflooring. There was a little amounts or something for some things.
Yeah, but why he requested the additional ones is beyond me, because...
But either way, I'll just look at the work and, you know, give an estimate on the work that needs to be done.
That's right.
And the thing is also, is some of the work that he did is going to cost plenty to rip it back out and do it right.
Okay. So part of the solution is going to be that identifying on a contractor by contractor basis, because this is CDBG money, federal money, the bid process requires. It's not a, hey, can we get around it? But you remember what you had to go through the first time. You had to get 3 bids.
Well, I went through that over and over and over, and that's why it's taken this long to get to this idiot that destroyed my house.
How many bids was that?
Well, I went over that process 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, so he's gotten 8 bids.
Well, okay, by the time the bid process was...
Are you saying he has to start over?
That's right. Yep.
You need to get 3 bids again.
And it's because it's Uncle Sam's money.
Why is Uncle Sam requiring him to do this 3 times?
Yeah, what if he's already gotten bids? Can he just consider those bids?
Hang on. Nope. Because what has been done, I mean, the work, so it's not going to be a quick and easy deal, right? We're going to have to sit through it, and we're going to have to roll up our sleeves and do what has to be done.
This has not been a quick and easy deal. In fact, it's been very inconveniencing.
Yep.
It's put me through hell. It's put my family and everybody through stress. And it's been an ongoing thing that's just been one thing after another.
And again, we can focus on if we want to, and I'll join you if you'd like, in how arduous and how much of a pain in the ass it is to get federal money. But it's part of the deal.
But the federal money has already been gotten, and I've already been approved for this.
Can I ask another question?
Absolutely.
That guy that did the work here, is he going to be charged for fraud for not doing the work?
We're going to have to go, this is going to be part of that process of gaining an acceptance, getting 3 bids based on these bids that were already approved by Ani, having 3 different contractors review these bids against your house and bid for work that needs to be completed. Then we're going to be able to identify payment against work done. It's going to give us the leverage, okay? Then we're going to be able to identify what that stopping point and restarting point is going to be. That makes sense, right?
Well, you have that right now. I can tell you what's not done, what needs to be done, what needs to be redone. I've got a whole list of things that were not done right or need to be done.
Their inspectors have been through there, haven't they?
Several times.
Okay.
This has been a real big pain in the ass.
Yeah, I know. I would say I've been hearing about this for quite a few months.
And I'm ready to
thinking you guys have already.
Go after the city, let the city deal with contracts.
I was under the impression that you guys have been investigating this for quite a while, and the inspector's been in his house a number of times. Matter of fact,
I've got it all on video.
Before of your inspectors
have been there, have been on video.
They've ran out of the house because of
So tell
the
me
video.
what it is you would like to have happen.
I'd like to have the stuff done, and I'd like to have had it done last year.
Okay, so where we are right now.
Where we are right now is you need to get money back from him, because that's not my responsibility to let him come in here when I'm ordered to have a certain worker come in there. I've got a right to the same quality of work as anybody else does. I don't care if I own a doghouse or a mansion, I have a right to that work. And if that guy is not going to do his job and tell you he did, then you need to, by your responsibility of job, go after him, not me.
Well, yeah, they have a contract with
Right.
them, correct? You don't?
Mm-hmm.
No, he signs a contract with them?
Yeah.
If we don't,
You don't sign a contract with them, the company doesn't, so Lonnie signs a contract with the contractor? Now, isn't he required to pick from your contractors?
Yep.
They have to be approved with the city, right?
And you give them a list, and you have to take
I went
those
through several contractors who were approved by the city that were turned down over and over and over.
Now, what's the purpose of approving contractors for a list of you guys' own? I mean, isn't that supposed to be for the client's safety, so they don't get scammed out of the work, or that you guys can know that the contractors are good contractors?
That whole list of contractors, you guys make people know by work scale people out. And they were paying off the inspectors to come out and inspect shoddy stuff, and just meet for about 5 minutes in people's basements and not even inspect the work that was done. I've got proof of that.
Pause Construction charged Roger's mom $13,000 to paint their house, and all he did was spray paint it. Scrape some spots, throw some paint on it, they were done in a day and a half.
So how long
$13,000.
will it take before this guy's held accountable for not using the money properly?
Well, see, the city wasn't on the old contracts. The city is listed on these contracts. So therefore, the city is liable for the city handling the money that came in to the city's hands that goes out to these crooked contractors.
So we're on the same, so get money back from him.
Yeah,
We're on the same page.
Yeah, and I think, you're at this point in time, you're trying to allocate whatever funding you can left to finish whatever, whatever
Get it done right. I should have a right to whoever I want to do the work. I've tried you guys this way 2 or 3 times now, and they've done nothing but screw me over and mess my house up.
Who do we talk to get around the 3 bids? And I know that there's a way around the 3 bids.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of confused.
There has to be a way.
Why do you have to reapply for CDBG funding if the
I'm already
CDBG
approved.
funding is already approved?
It's not.
So if he doesn't have to reapply, then why you got to get 3 more bids? See, I'm confused on some of that.
He's not reapplying for the funding.
Yes.
We are reapplying, or we are pulling a contractor and putting a new contractor in place.
Okay, so it's
part
you're
of
just trying to get his name.
But not the contractor of my choice, right?
I think what Lonnie wants is Greg to do his work.
Yeah. Okay. So
that's not a contract process. Yeah.
So part, which is in and of itself absolutely fine. That Lonnie wants Greg to do it.
Appropriate.
That's what CDBG regulations and what's called the procurement process works at, keeping that process in a place that, right, is bid appropriate.
Yeah.
Why was
So,
it
well-
necessary to raise or
Well,
lower
no,
it
you see,
other than work
well,
with the other
it's,
contractors already did?
You're
So
right,
you already know.
you're right, but he's talking about, it's about his paperwork. I mean, no matter what, whether things make sense over here, when it comes down to the papers and they want you to fill something in on this line, you gotta write whatever on this line. And so he's saying that, you know, we gotta go through that process, that it's put there so that you don't go out and find your buddy and have him give $30,000 bid to do $18,000 of work so that you guys can keep $12,000 when, you know, knowing that another couple contractors, if they would have gave bids too.
But I'm saying is that if I go get 3 more contractors and another one of them bids it low, and he shits and screws up my house some more, I'm gonna be really hot.
Yeah, then I think you would take it to the attorney. I think you should take it to the attorney at this point.
I really do.
And, well, and to some extent, I don't think it's not a closed bid process, is it?
What do you mean?
This isn't like, it's not like a project. I mean, we don't submit bids in an envelope and then he's the only one to get them. You go get a bid from a contractor.
No, they pulled that on me already once too.
What's that?
And there 2 of the contractors knew each other, so I couldn't have either one of them.
Well, that's got nothing to do with it, but if you call a contractor, if you call
What
it,
happened?
Oh, 2 of the contractors knew each other, and they wrote them up on the same type of paperwork coincidentally, so that neither one of them could do the work. And they were both.
No, here's what I'm saying. If you go get a contract, or you go get a bid from a contractor, I mean, pick them out of the phone book, call them up, say, I need a bid.
Most of them are just off to deal with it anymore at this point.
Yeah, a lot of them don't want to deal with it. As they come out and they give you a bid for it, you're gonna know what the bid is. I mean, if you want me to do the work, and we look at, first off, I can guarantee you this much, Lonnie, these guys jack the price on stuff so much that the bid that they're gonna give, mine's gonna look like gold anyway. But
Well,
you're gonna know before it ever gets here, because you're gonna have those 2 bids, and you're gonna have my bid, and if for some reason you get some guy that's gonna do it for some outrageous money, and I look at it and go, well, I can do it for that, well, we'll write a bid for that, and if I can't, then I'll be like, hey, you know, go get that cheap bastard to do it, and then I guess, yeah, you got.
Well, and right now, I'm gonna have to explain to whoever these contractors are that go in there to look, you're gonna have to, there's more that you gotta rip out that this guy did before. So that bid's gonna be higher than the initial amount that I got already granted. So I really don't need to go any higher with them, because that's exactly what they're gonna do now. They gotta tear out these guys that screw ups.
Yeah,
And I do have those on video.
And I do have a right to know what he had, you know, what the exact amount he's been paid. I've got a right to see his damn receipts. I've got a right to have copies of those for my taxes.
Which I don't think you get.
Yeah.
It says loan.
So, in other words, right now at this moment, you need to get 3 bids for this work.
Yep.
In order to get that old contractor off and get somebody new established in his place for that funding.
And I'm gonna talk to the lawyer. We'll take your bid over to the lawyer, and this is ridiculous. We let the city of Cedar Rapids deal with this idiot that screwed my house all up, and I'm going for damages and all the whole 9 yards. Over and above this bid. And they've done a lot of damage in the last 3 years in my house. By idiots that didn't know what they were doing because they were on your list, not somebody that I could choose to go in there.
Greg's fixed a lot of flood houses, so he's really good at it.
Nice.
I've
Okay.
fixed a lot of contractors and fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get called in for this a lot. This is the first time I've taken, you know, been willing to walk back into you guys' office. And it wouldn't have nothing to do with you guys. I mean, Jumpstart programming was pretty screwed up right out of the gate. There's no doubt. Flood, a little bit congested, you know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that may include,
A lot of
some
contractors, a
bills
lot of
too.
money, a lot of people not knowing how they're supposed to distribute it and all scratching their head, and so that makes this big stall process.
This may also include some bills, like for utilities such as, you know, the daylight you can see all the way around every window you installed in my house, and it is winter time. So a lot of that heat is escaping out around the holes around my windows.
And the cracked windows.
Yeah, and the cracked and broken window he put in and left there, and the one.
He installed a broken window.
I installed the broken window.
2 of them.
Well, one had a rip screen, the other had broken glass,
the other
leaving a big danger on the lower pane for my grandkids to get seriously hurt on. He tried to burn my house down by leaving a shop lamp sit on raw wood in my basement way and going to lunch for 2.5 hours. Now, them lamps, utility lamps that go on poles, stand about this tall, you use in garages or wood shops. Yeah, he just had the lamp itself without the pole laying on raw wood next to it. A hand towel wiring hanging out of every damn thing in the house. Every light fixture where he worked, every light switch where he worked, he left the wiring just hanging there with everything out of it. But he wasn't a certified electrician, so he couldn't put it back in there. That's what he told me. That was their excuse. He could tear it apart, but he couldn't put it back in there.
I've never quite heard that one yet. He wasn't supposed to tear it apart.
So there's going to be a lot of liability falling on somebody's ass. I'm done with this.
I mean, they put his power box by his water pipes. I mean,
You've probably heard a lot of horror stories by now, haven't you?
Oh, yeah, I've got half-inch water pipes running, copper pipes running right up next to my power, my circuit box.
Circuit breaker box.
Yeah, well, that was the coalition in Iowa did that. Martinson did that. He was the head of the coalition. This guy didn't do that. But he did have a plumber come in there to inspect, and the plumber didn't say jack diddly about it. Or the inspector that came to inspect it.
but those first two inspectors did.
So again, the city didn't do their job
Oh,
and
the second
uninspected.
set.
Yeah, yeah, you know.
Well, you know where my heart is, Lon. You know that I want to help resolve and be solution driven, but you also know,
So,
I think from the business
is there a process where they can go through, when they have a situation like this, where they don't have to go through the 3 bids, and if not, who do we talk to about changing that?
You can't get around it because of the money.
Who do we talk to?
It's a
CDBG.
I've already been granted this much. I shouldn't have to, I've already been granted this, I shouldn't have to.
Just because you have one guy.
Hold on.
Why can't you use the other guy?
Who do we talk to?
It is a procurement is a federal regulation for CDBG money. The procurement process.
Who do we talk to?
Your congressman.
Okay.
Perhaps. The procurement
Okay, that's what I need to know.
Here, let me try this then. Let me get on this again. Remember, in the beginning, you got 3 different contractors came gave bids, right? Because they have to have that process for, security in order to allocate the money. That process gave you a guy, and he got a first half of a check. Now, that money that he's talking about is accrued essentially to this guy, right? He got the first half of the check, and now that second half still stuck to him, waiting to be cleared.